Right. So in a media product, the younger generation, so ages between 13
Mm.
and 18, would be our target. Would be what this will appeal most. Because
Teenagers.
yeah, it'd be the most appealing. Because firstly, it's a teen-based movie, so it will appeal more teens than adults. Also, it's a bit more on a psychological factor, so they might get confused, which will make them want to watch it again to see if they can understand it. What do you think?
Yeah.
What gender do you think it appeals?
It appeals more to the male, because the male is seen to be, or males in general are seen to be more confident, adventurous, and they almost don't feel fear or sense it. Um, this relates to our media because the film involves a male protagonist that walks into a forest not realizing and knowing the dangers of it, or maybe realizing the danger of it, but not recognizing that it could be harmful. Walking by himself, and uh, towards the end of the day, um, and it's also the forest, which was the setting we used, is a very secluded area where there's not much movement, which makes it more more suspenseful for the audience to view.
Yeah. Also, movies that are similar to this are Wrong Way. Well, all of the Wrong Ways. I think there's seven. Also, Eden Lake is very similar, but in the most part, it's a original film, so there's not much like it. Wrong Way is really similar. It's about like them a group of people that went the wrong direction and got lost, and then they tried looking for help, but ended up being chased by something which they didn't know what it was, and then they reveal what was chasing them, and it was a monster. So a bit
Mm.
different, as it's more sci-fi than anything, but
Yeah.
yeah. What would you say about the narrative style that we use in the movie?
What do you mean?
Was it more jokey, like joking about, comedic, or suspenseful and dramatic,
Well, I don't
romantic?
see any comedy in our media.
There isn't really much speaking involved. It's more
That's not
actions.
the aim of our media. Um, Film it wasn't made to be funny or humorous. It was made um, for for the user to see the wait, let me start again. Um, our media isn't supposed to be funny or humorous. Um, we've made it to be the audience has to figure out what the clues are, if you want to call it, the sequences in the opening sequence that will lead to the actual film. One of them being the dead body that was found in the river. This can imply many things, which is what we want the audience to think about when they're watching. I don't feel there's not too much drama that would come. later on in the film, um, the opening sequence is just seen as a
Introduction.
as a first teaser
Yeah, glance into what you're gonna be
of
watching in front of you.
of the actual of the film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how do you think it'll change? What do you think would have changed if, let's say, we used a female lead in comparison to male?
I think a lot would change. Firstly, a female isn't seen as dominant or as right, a female wouldn't is not seen as a very dominant person or a dominant character. Uh, as unlike um, a male would be much more confident, much more fearless. Um, in contrast, a woman would be much more cautious. They would tend to know um, more of the dangers than the male. But even if the male did know, chances are they wouldn't really like take note of it and would still carry on because they're a male and they think that they can essentially do what they want. Um, Also, having a female character leading in the film could also could also make it more appealing to the female viewer. Um, it shows that females can potentially be the same as men, depending on how the character was used in the film. Um, yeah, I mean,
How about if we joined the two leads, make them both lead characters? Let's say male and female. Would it
that could work,
would it
but
confuse? Yeah.
I still feel like the male would still come out on top, and the female would be the damsel in distress, if you want to call it. So the male would um still lead in a way, but the woman will be there um as a the woman would still the male the male would still be more dominant than the female. However, the female is still it can still be used dominant than the female. I think the female would be the damsel in distress. Um, by this I mean that the male would perhaps save the female or
Yeah, he'd be the knight in shining
interact
armor.
with her in such a way that makes him come out on top, or look perhaps better and higher in terms of status than the female. This relates back to a male's nature, where they want to be more dominant and and more powerful than a female.
Yeah, it also seems as if it come across more of the man having to care for the woman. It wasn't an option. It was he has to. She's
Yeah, I
just
mean the
always will be
women,
crying, mood swings, and
the female wouldn't. I mean, it could, but the woman is unlikely going to be involved in any sort of violence or altercation or confrontation um, in the movie. So that job would be done by the male, um, which would make him look bigger and better, stronger um, than the female. Next.
Also, if there was an altercation between the two, how do you think it'd adjust the rest of the movie?
Well, there was an altercation between them. I think the woman would definitely win, as I feel like the man would show some compassion towards the
How
female.
about if there was an altercation? If you saw the altercation between the killer and uh, the person that has passed?
Um, that would enhance the film. However, that would also make it different in terms of audience, like who would watch it, um, the viewers that can watch it, because obviously an altercation can vary between uh, perhaps abusive words or something more bloody or
Well, it will be bloody because the person did die. So I wonder, but I think it'd be too much. It'd confuse the audience because they would already know what happened. The point of the movie would have been unless you revealed, unless you revealed the oh, you could reveal the how the person died and the altercation at the end of the movie, so that backtracks.
yeah, that would. I mean, that can well, it would help, um, but it also can take away the point of the movie. Um, so yeah, it's kind of depends on what exactly you want the movie to be.
Yeah,
I feel like if we have certain clues, if you want to call it,
or like
um,
snippets and like backtracks. Yeah,
just small yeah, things from like flashbacks, cliffhangers, all that sort of thing
yeah. So
can
he like
make the
sees something.
audience more interested in the movie, because they're implying what could this be, what could that be, and how
Yeah,
that affects the characters.
almost like his imagination playing tricks. Well, the friend's imagination playing tricks on him. Like maybe could have imagined what happened, and it's falsely imagines it.
Yeah,
Kind of like the movie with Nicole Kidman before I go to sleep, before you sleep, where she pictures someone being the bad guy, but then really it's only her head playing tricks, and the person's actually the good person.
yeah,
Yeah, but I feel like that could have been a possibility because he was never there. The friend Calvin was
yeah.
never there,
True.
so the imagination could have been playing there, which could also confuse the audience, which could also lead to maybe the audience being of a older age, as it is a bit confusing.
Yeah, in terms of that route you're talking about, like that sort of target for the film would definitely be more related to older generation.
However, it'd be more wanted to wanted by the younger.
Yeah. Um.
So, seeing as though we said that there's if we presented violence and altercation or like them kind of flashbacks, who would more appeal more, the male or the female audience?
Male. Because
Definitely.
because the film itself, like the nature of the film,
I
is
don't think girls would like that kind of violent. I think they'd get
yeah,
bored, whereas men would
yeah,
be into it.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
They'd be
you've
saying
pretty
what
much
they would
summed it
see.
up.
Yeah. What about as in a higher scale production? Do you think that'd change how it is?
Not really. I mean, the plot would still apply. I mean, of course, the props and all of that would could be
Advanced.
much more suitable to the plot. However, the plot would still work, having it stay the same in a different area, props, different.
Yeah,
characters even.
but the beginning of the movie might have been a bit confusing because frames were really distorted, like slightly not. You couldn't perfectly tell what was what. That kind of adds to the effect which we intended to for the confusion. So it doesn't. So it shows that that might not actually been what happened. It might just be a imagination of the character.
But I think that's pretty much what we went for.
Instead of going for very clear, we went for more of the dizzy confusion kind of
Yeah, pretty much.
effect.